was the morning November 9th, 2005, in Robinson, Texas. The rain had finally stopped, but the dampness clung to everything, seeping through the soles of Darlene Gentry's worn sneakers as she trudged up the muddy path to the trailer. The silence was wrong. Keith's beat-up Ford F-150 was parked at its usual jaunty angle, a bottle of Jack Daniel's gleaming amber on the passenger seat, but the trailer was dark. No blue flicker of the game, no low grumble of his voice on the phone. Welcome to our channel, and please subscribe now. Unreal Truthful Crime. Keith? She called out, pushing the unlocked door. It swung inward with a whine. You better not be passed out on the damn floor again. The smell hit her first. Metallic, coppery, thick enough to taste. It cut through the usual stale odors of cigarette smoke and fried food. Her hand, trembling slightly, found the light switch. The living room was a disaster. The coffee table was upended, a shattered bottle of beer glistening amidst a pile of hunting magazines. The recliner, Keith's throne, was knocked on its side, and in the center of the worn floral carpet lay Keith. Darlene's breath hitched, a small, pathetic sound. He was on his back, eyes wide open, staring at the water-stained ceiling. His flannel shirt was dark and sodden, a deep, unnatural crimson spreading from a horrific gash in his chest. A hunting knife, his hunting knife, the one with the bone handle he was so proud of, lay discarded near his outstretched hand. A scream built in her throat, but she choked it down. Her mind, usually sluggish from a long shift at the diner and 2 glasses of cheap wine, snapped into a cold, sharp clarity. This was bad. This was the kind of bad that swallowed your whole life. Her first instinct was to call 911. She even had her phone in her hand, her thumb hovering over the button. But then she stopped. She looked at the knife. She looked at the overturned furniture, the signs of a struggle. She thought of their last conversation, screamed across this very room just yesterday. I'm done, Keith. Do you hear me? Done. If you touch me again, I swear to God. You'll what, Dare? You got nowhere to go. You're nothing without me. And then she thought of the life insurance policy, the one she'd taken out 6 months ago after he'd put her in the hospital with a broken rib. The one he'd drunkenly signed, joking about how she'd better not get any ideas. The police would come. They'd see the history of domestic calls. They'd hear about the argument. They'd find the insurance policy. It was a script, and she was cast perfectly as the vengeful wife. Number. She couldn't call. Not yet. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird as she moved. She wiped the front door handle with the hem of her shirt. She righted the recliner, her skin crawling every time she glanced at Keith's still form. She picked up the magazines, her movements frantic, efficient. She was cleaning a crime scene, but in her mind, she was cleaning up the mess of her life, erasing the evidence of her own motive. She saved the knife for last. She stared at it, this instrument of her freedom and her potential damnation. She couldn't leave it. Her fingerprints were all over the handle. She'd cooked with it, washed it 100 times. Wiping it clean would be pointless. The absence of her prints would be as damning as their presence. She had to get rid of it. Wrapping her hand in a dish towel, she picked it up. The blood was already tacky. She ran outside into the chilly night air, gulping it down like water. The woods behind the trailer stretched out, dark and endless. She plunged into the undergrowth, branches whipping at her face, until she found a rotten log. She shoved the knife deep into the soft, wet pulp, covering the hole with leaves and mud. Back inside, she took one last look. It looked less like a struggle now, more like a messy man had died messily. It would have to do. She took a deep breath, let a genuine tremor of shock and fear wash over her, and then she made the call. Her performance was Oscar-worthy. The delayed scream, the hysterical sobs, the perfectly fragmented sentences to the 911 operator. The police arrived in a whirlwind of flashing lights. Sheriff Miller, a man who had responded to more than one domestic disturbance at the Gentry trailer, took her statement with a weary, practiced air. He noted her disheveled state, her genuine tears, but his eyes were hard. "You two have a fight recently, Darlene?" he asked, his voice neutral. We always fought," she wept into a tissue. "But I loved him. Who would do this?" They processed the scene. They found the forced lock on the back window, a detail she'd missed in her panic. They bagged the broken bottle, took photos of the scuff marks on the floor. They asked about enemies. Keith had plenty: bar fights, gambling debts, a recent feud with a neighbor over a property line. They asked about the insurance policy. She admitted it, crying about how she was scared of being left with nothing. For 2 days, she played the grieving widow, all while waiting for the other shoe to drop. It felt like balancing on a high wire over a pit of snakes. On the 3rd day, Sheriff Miller returned. His expression was grim. He didn't come to the door, he met her on the porch. "Darlene," he said, his voice low, "we found the murder weapon. Boy out hunting with his dog dug it up near your property line. Wiped clean." Her blood ran cold. Wiped clean? She hadn't done that. "That's good, right?" she stammered. "Maybe," he said, watching her closely. "Forensics did a number on the trailer, though. Pulled a lot of prints. Most are yours and Keith's, course." He paused, letting the silence hang. "But they found a partial on the broken beer bottle. Doesn't belong to you, or Keith Darlene's mind raced. A partial print, someone else. We ran it," the sheriff continued. "Came back to a fella named Ray Skeller. Mean anything to you?" The name was a punch to the gut. Ray Skeller, Keith's so-called business partner, the one he'd been arguing with on the phone for weeks about a botched deal, something involving stolen ATVs. Keith had said Ray was getting greedy, said he was getting too big for his britches. Keith had threatened to cut him out. The world tilted on its axis. She saw it all unfold with terrifying clarity. Ray had come over. They'd argued. Keith, drunk and belligerent, had probably gone for the knife. There'd been a struggle. Ray had gotten it away from him and then he'd fled, leaving the scene to look exactly like what she had thought it was. She had cleaned a crime scene. She had hidden the murder weapon. She had nearly framed herself for a murder she didn't commit. Sheriff Miller was still watching her, his eyes missing nothing. "Thing is, Darlene," he said softly, "when we brought Skeller in, he lawyered up real quick. But he's scared, and scared men talk. He says he came by to talk business, found Keith like that, panicked, and ran. Says the place was already tore up. Says the knife was already on the floor." He took a step closer. "Which makes me wonder why a panicked man, seeing his partner dead, would take the time to pick up a bloody knife, wipe it clean, and hide it in the woods before he ran." Darlene stood frozen. Her lie was about to collide with Ray Skeller's lie, and in the middle was the ugly, complicated truth. She looked at the sheriff, her face a mask of grief and fear that was no longer an act. The carefully constructed story she'd built to save herself was crumbling, and she was about to be buried in the rubble of 2 men's violence, one who had terrorized her in life, and one who had very nearly destroyed her in death. "I think," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I need to tell you what really happened that night." And for the first time, she started talking. leaving out only the one secret she knew she could never tell. That for one brief, terrifying moment, she had been glad he was dead. Thank you for watching this complete video. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Unreal Truthful Crime. Stay safe.